So the other day I realized I've been in university for 3 years and I've been through so many adventures, there are so many tales to tell, but not a lot of people know about them unless you were actually there with me. Most of it's because I'm a very private person, but it's also mostly because I don't actually like people that much. I realized that my friends back in India, my family, and even my friends here don't know about some of the stuff that I've been through. So I decided to come up with this video series chronicling exactly what's happened to me, told in a more Halim style. Now, if you've got someone going abroad for the education or just for any reason, you can probably show them these videos and show them exactly what not to expect. So let's get on with it. So welcome to the Destiny board. Now this board contains basically my entire story in a bunch of small pictures. So if you wanna try to guess what exactly happened to me on this fateful night, you can pause the video here and take a look at the pictures and then try and leave a guess in the comments. Or don't. So my day started off pretty well. I woke up late for my philosophy exam. See, it's filling. Okay. So I woke up late for my philosophy exam, and then I went to the wrong building and I got lost. So pretty good start so far, I'd say. So then basically I spent the entire previous night, studying for this philosophy exam. Why was I studying philosophy? Moving on. Now, so I come back from my exam, I go off to sleep, and I'm woken up later in the evening by a flurry of phone calls from my friend. So this is where the three main characters of the story come in. Me, her, this is the person whose birthday it is, we'll call her N, and the third person named BJ. BJ are the initials for the name of the third person. So as you can see, it's clear because there's no other interpretation for me, her, BJ. It's pretty evident that it's the three characters in the story. So it's N's birthday, which I was supposed to attend, and I actually overslept for that too. So I managed to oversleep for 2 things on the same day. And so I'm woken up by a flurry of phone calls, and I obviously have to get ready and go down to this restaurant called Nando's. Now, what is Nando's? Nando's is a restaurant that is basically, what is it known for? What happens when you give some poultry, some weed, you get a fried chicken. So Nando's is known for its fried chicken. So now we go down to this joint, Nando's, and we're having a good time. There's a whole bunch of us. It's Anne's birthday, and I'm actually surprised she has any friends at all. And we're all having a good time, and everything's going well. We're playing some games, we're eating food, and then BJ orders herself a glass of Chardonnay, which is basically like advanced soda. But based upon this equation I've given you over here, BJ plus OS English in a second language. BJ plus OH minus, and OH minus is the identifying group for alcohol, everyone knows that, equals not good. So BJ plus alcohol equals not good. Why? Because BJ somehow manages to get extremely tipsy off just this one glass of Chardonnay. It's like getting tipsy off of bubbling water. So afterwards, once we're done, all of us, well, I think 5 or 6 of us, we go back to my residence. I used to live in a residence back in the first year, just to hang out. And eventually people start leaving. So a couple of people leave immediately as soon as we get there, and then one by one people start leaving, and eventually N herself leaves for reasons, and now it's just me and an extremely tipsy BJ. So I know what you're thinking. It's the middle of the night, it's my place, and I'm with a drunk, fairly pretty young girl. So you know what's happening next. You guys can guess. That's right. I asked her to leave so I can study for my math exam the next day. Time for the calc, because I had a calculus exam the next day. So you can clearly see why that's there. Time for the calc. Again, there's no other interpretation of that. So now obviously I have to make sure that she's clearly under my responsibility now, because she's incapable of anything. And I have to make sure she gets home safely, because that's how I was raised. So Now I conduct a stellar session on getting to know a woman 101. So when you first get to know someone, there's some fairly standard questions you ask them that I had to ask her just to make sure she can get home safely. Questions like, where do you live? How do you get there? Are you going there right now? How would someone get into your house? Questions you ask a girl in the middle of the night when you first meet her. So when I did ask her these questions, I asked her, where do you live? To which she responded, where do I live? When I asked her, how did you come here? She said, how did I come here? And when I asked her, how you plan to get back? She said, I don't know. So I had to basically utilize whatever I had at my disposal, whatever previous information I had about her, because she was Annie's friend and I was trying to tell. So I had heard about her before. So here's what I know about her. What do I know about her? I know she's from a place called Hamilton. Ham, it's big, ton, 1000 kg. So she's from Hamilton, and she took the bus to get here. So I just figured I had to put her on a bus back to Hamilton and just make sure she got home safely from there. So now the main question is, how do we get to the bus station? Well, you might have figured out already from the next slide. Cheese and toasted. We take the subway. Now that actually wasn't difficult. That was extremely difficult to conclude because of course she was of no use. And I was rather new to the country at this point. So I didn't know any of the stations, I didn't know the ways, I didn't know the routes. So I had to ask a couple of strangers exactly how you would get to Union Station. During which, while I was asking these people, I think she was playing games on my computer. So now we set off for Union Station. We set off to take the subway to Union Station. So after we leave the residence, it's pretty dark outside, as you can guess. And there are two ways to get to Union Station. One is this dark, shady alleyway that I wouldn't even. I don't know why there are. It was a dark and shady alleyway. So there are two ways to get to. So one was a dark shady alleyway, and the other one was this nicely lit, a lot of restaurants, open area down the main streets, nicely lit, nice ambiance. And the other one was straight off a horror film. And I jokingly asked her which route do you want to take, and she said, let's go down the dark scary one. At this point, I was very greatly worried I was worried for my safety at this point, because I was worried that she was going to mug me. It's a mug over there, so I was worried I was going to get mugged. So I said, let's go via the well-lit path. So we go down there, we get to the station. Now, as you go down the stairs to enter the subway station, there's actually this very strong draft of wind coming out, and unfortunately, it blows her dress up, right? Now, of course, I'm a gentleman. So what do? Well, it's clear from this, NFL equal to ceiling. Whenever because of the draft, the ceiling became very interesting to me. So as soon as the dress flew up, I was just like, oh, what wonderful architecture, in this scene. What wonderful architecture, what wonderful lighting in this station over here. I never really noticed it the 500 times I came here. It's really quite stunning. This ceiling, these cracks up, I never really noticed it until she was able to get that under control. Now when we go, well, Union Station, like I said before, see, there's Union and there's Station, so Union Station. So we get to Union Station, and I obviously don't trust her to do anything by herself, so I give her very specific instructions. I said, stand here and don't move while I go and figure out what to do from here. And I went out, I asked the people working at the station, they were very extremely helpful. They said, just go out go to this way, it will lead you to the bus station, and you can take the bus from there. And after I came back a few minutes later, let's say, a little bit other than 10 minutes, she actually had not moved at all. She was like a statue. She had not moved a millimeter. I don't think she was even breathing in between. So it's good to know her brain didn't need the oxygen. Now, we get to Union Station, and I know she has to get to Hamilton. Fine, she put her on the bus to Hamilton. And luckily at this point she was starting to gain most of her senses back. But there was still one very major question: which bus to put her on? Because as you can see, which bus? So which bus to put her on? Because there were two buses that actually went to Hamilton, and if I put her on the wrong bus, this video would be a missing persons report, which it still might be. So I have to decide which bus. Okay, now, so here, so I have the two pamphlets, sorry, for the two buses and the routes that they take. And I'm using everything I know. I've taken advanced math classes, taken advanced physics classes, studying astrophysics, quantum mechanics. I start, making deductions like Sherlock Holmes. I start putting things together in my head, and ultimately I come up with this excellent method in which I guess. Now, I guessed, and she seemed to be completely in favor of me guessing. So the bus finally shows up, when I'm at the end of this great ordeal. And she gets on the bus, and of course she doesn't have any change to actually pay for the fare. So she takes $5 from me, which she still has not returned. And in fact, I'm not really worried about that, because I would have paid her a lot more to get lost and leave me alone. But the $5 was just enough. And not only that, I also did call her and ask her to book a cab from the bus station to her house, even though they weren't that, I don't know how far apart they were. Because even though she was in her senses, I didn't trust her, because I didn't find her to be that bright, and I didn't want to take any risks, because I got that far, I might not put all the way to the end. So I finally put on the bus, and she doesn't actually even wave bye to me, despite the fact that I just spent the last hour and a half trying to get her home safely. She gets on the bus, goes up to the top deck, sits down on a seat, and passes out. Like, she goes right to sleep. In fact, I'm worried she slept so peacefully, I'm worried she might have passed away. No further comment on that. And then, so now finally after all that, I take some way back home. It's been a long sequence of events. I'm quite tired. I'm a young man, young college boy. I'm alone at my place at 2:30 a.m. So you know what guys do when they're alone, and they've had a long tough day. I obviously get down to study for my CAT exam next year.